in a presentation. But I'm pretty sure that most of you already know what CALDO is, but just in case there's someone here that doesn't know what CALDO is. CALDO is an office that exists in Canada and that provides support for students that are looking for master and PhD programs in Canada with financing from their home countries. So this means that our office is not suitable to provide information on Canadian scholarships, for example. I will have a slide about financing, but you will notice that the financing is all from countries outside of Canada, and that's where we are we are specialized. It is in the scholarships from the agencies that we have agreements with. CALDO is comprised of 9 universities currently. The universities that are part of CALDO are the ones that are mentioned here. We are our members are top Canadian research universities, and we are always expanding our members, which means that eventually we might have new universities joining CALDO in the next months. The idea of the universities was basically to create an office, so the CALDO office, that assists students that are bringing financing from their own country to do master and PhD programs at the CALDO universities. So our services are totally free. You don't need to pay anything to use our services. And our office only exists in Canada. So most of our support is provided by email, by these webinars that we do, and also by country visits. So for those of you that are from Mexico and Brazil, we will be in Mexico in April. Just subscribe to our Facebook because we will announce all of the details of the visit there. And we will also be in Brazil, most precisely in Rio de Janeiro in April. So the services that CALDO offers, like I said, are free. You don't need to pay anything to use our services, and they are basically related to finding suitable programs at master and PhD level. Understand a bit how the application process works, so the type of documents that you need, the type of requirements that the program demands from the applicants, so the academic average, the language proficiency, and other tests. One additional service that we provide is assistance with contacting supervisors, and this is done via a specific platform that CALDO has. So it's an online platform that it's basically you create a profile. So you create a specific profile based on academic information and also on your preferences of programs that you wish to do in Canada or in our universities, to be more specific. And we will share that information with our universities, and they will try to connect with supervisors on your behalf. So that's basically how it works. So one of the first things that I would like to talk today, and based on the questions that you were asking, is the application steps for scholarships. So most of you, if you are considering to apply to a scholarship from your own country, there are four steps that you need to follow. The first step is basically to understand the scholarship that you're applying to. So all the scholarships have what it's called the bases de la convocatoria, or guia da convocatória, guia da chamada. And it's important that you read the details of the document so that you can understand, first of all, if you are eligible for the scholarship. Some scholarships, for example, have age requirements. So obviously, if you are above the age that it's eligible, there's no point in you to trying to apply to the scholarship. Other scholarships have ranking requirements, so specific universities are not eligible for the scholarship. So once again, you should only apply to the scholarship for universities that are within the rankings that the scholarship mentions. The second element is that you need to formally apply to the university. So most scholarships require students to present an admission letter. The admission letter is a document that is issued by the university and that clearly states that the student has been accepted in a particular program. For you to apply to the program, you need to submit a formal application via the university website. You need to provide the documents that they require. We will talk a bit about the documents in a few slides. And you will need to pay the application fee. The application fee is usually around 100 Canadian dollars. Okay, and for you to pay that, you need to have access to a credit card. Okay, so this is important because some people might not be aware of this, and at the end they have everything ready, and then they need to pay, and they don't have an access to a credit card. So that's fundamental. The third step is apply to the scholarship. So basically, you have everything ready, you receive your letter of admission, and then you apply once again. Usually, it's done online to the scholarship from your home country or from where you're eventually interested. Different scholarships request different things. They have different steps. So once again, you need to understand how the scholarship works. The final step is apply for student permit. Student permit is the immigration visa. So once you have the scholarship, then you need to go to the Canadian immigration website and you need to apply for the student permit. The student permit is basically the document that allows you to come to Canada to study. Once you have that document, you are then ready to arrive at the university. Okay, so this is one of the first things that you were mentioning were what are the steps to apply, and this is basically the summarized version. Some of you were also asking, what do I need to do to apply to a PhD? So we talked about applying to a scholarship. Now we are talking about the steps to apply to a PhD. And for a master is pretty much the same. The first thing that you need to find is the program that matches what you want to do. Okay, so you're a civil engineer, and you want to study, I don't know, transportation, roads, bridges, whatever. It's important for you to first of all find the universities that offer civil engineering, and then this is the second step: identify research areas and define supervisors. So go through the website and the research areas of the program and see which are the ones that offer transportation. And once you find it, take a look at the professor's profile. So read about the professors to find which are the ones that are doing research in the area that you are really interested. So once again, let's imagine that you just want to do bridges. So there's a professor whose specialty is bridges. So that's a perfect match for you to reach out to. And reaching out to the supervisor is the third step, contacting the supervisor. The supervisor, like I mentioned, if you are applying to a scholarship from your home country, the contact can be done through the CALDO online platform, but you can also do it directly. You can send an email to the professor where you introduce yourself and you talk a bit about what you want to do. We will also talk a bit more about supervisors in a few slides. But these are the basic steps to apply to a PhD. Okay? Obviously, the fourth step is to really apply to the university, but that's the same for all programs. It's not specific to a PhD. So in the end, obviously, you need to go into the university website and you need to apply. Okay. So we have covered apply to scholarship, apply to a PhD/master. It will be pretty similar. And now we are talking about admission requirements. So the GPA. The GPA is the academic average that you have from your previous studies. In Canada, for graduate studies, master and PhD, they will look the universities at your last 2 years of study. So if you are applying to a PhD, they will probably look at your master's, so the 2 years of master's. If you are applying to a master's, they will look at the last 2 years of your bacharelado. The conversion scale from your country to Canada will not be likely the same. In here, some of our universities use a 0 to 4 scale. Other universities might use a 0 to 5. In your country, might use from 0 to 10, from 0 to 20. But the bottom line is the following. You should calculate your average in terms of percentage. So you just need to know how much percent is your grade compared to the scale. And the general rule is that you should have at least 75% average. So whatever is your average, make sure that if it's 75 or more percent of the scale that you use in your country. Some of our universities have uh, equivalency tools, so tools where they try to match the what is the grade per country, but sometimes that's not very reliable. That's just fine to have an idea, but for for um, for for specific programs, sometimes they require a bit different in terms of the grade. So some examples are the ones that you see on the slide for each country that are mentioned here. So this is basically a general overview of the GPA. Language test. As you understand, if you come to study in Canada, you will need to communicate in English or in French, depending on the university. You will need to produce your work in English or in French, and the university needs to reassure that you have the necessary understanding of the language. So they require standardized tests. Standardized tests, usually in English, the most common are the TOEFL, IBT, or the IELTS Academic. Once again, the grades for the different departments vary, but I would say that talking about a TOEFL, you should have at least 85 or more um, I, in a scale of 120. On the IELTS, you should have a 6.5 or more on a scale of 9. For the French language, a TFI, probably a good grade would be around 860 on a scale from 10 to 909. And then the DAL for the DELF. And there, once again, the scale varies. So if you have that test, you can let us know how much you have, and we will confirm with the university if it's eligible or not. For general knowledge, the two main universities that offer French programs are Université Laval, that it's a Francophone university, and University of Ottawa, that it's a bilingual university, so offer programs in both English and French. So in these last two slides, we covered the admission requirements in general. Some of you were asking, what are the admission requirements? And these are the two main things that you need to keep in mind. Additional tests like the GRE or the GMAT are in most cases not required. Unless you are applying to a business program, then it's likely that you will need to have one of these tests. Or if you're applying to very specific programs like PhD in computer science, in physics. So some programs might require, but most of them don't. Talking about financial assistance. So I was mentioning that at the CALDO office, we don't advise on Canadian scholarships. And we also don't advise on our own university scholarships because it's a process that they basically have a department just to handle this. So it's very complex to understand all the different criteria. However, we are very familiar with the agencies with which we have agreements with. And I'm going to give you a brief overview of what each agency covers and what are the possibilities for each country. Let's start with Brazil. With Brazil, there are two agencies that offer scholarships that have uh, an agreement with CALDO, CNPq and CAPES, so the ones that you see at the top. These agencies most likely will finance doutorados, doctoral programs, postdocs, or what it's called PhD sandwich. So you are attending a doutorado in Brazil, and you want to do a couple of months of research in Canada, so you can apply to a scholarship from them. Right now, since the Science Without Borders program has ended, most of the scholarships are actually being assigned to sandwich PhDs, at least with CNPq. CAPES still assigns PhD scholarships. Usually they assign, or at least this last call, they assign 100 scholarships. They also give out scholarships for postdocs. Okay, so there are no financing from master degrees in Brazil, unfortunately, at least that we know of. What you see here is CONICIT, so from Chile. Scholarship from Chile, it's for masters and PhDs. Um, Chile provides around 350 scholarships for PhDs and another 350 for masters every year. So they are pretty generous, and their scholarship is pretty good in terms of financial conditions. So if you're from Chile, this should be something that you could consider because it's a really great scholarship. From Colombia, we have Colciencias, that it's an entity that provides scholarships for PhD programs. Um, not They don't provide a lot of scholarships per year. They provide, I don't know, probably 80, 70 scholarships. It's not entirely sure if they will open scholarships in 2018. They haven't announced yet. Um, but it's only for PhD programs. Colfuturo, it's a credito agency, so they provide what's called the Beca Credito. That it's a credito, but it's condonable in up to 80%. So you can be exempted of paying up to 80%, which is extremely good. And from our perspective, Colfuturo is most suitable for master programs. They are pretty generous. They offered a lot of scholarships every year. They offer around 1,000 scholarships every year. Scholarships, when I say scholarships, creditos also. Um, and actually today was the last day to apply for 2018. Just to notice, CONICIT right now the beca for doctorados is open. For maestrías, it will open on March 28th. CAPES has closed the becas for doutorados em abril 20, fevereiro 21, on the 21st of this month. CNPq has scholarships open until June the 1st. Cenecit. Cenecit is from Ecuador, and they offer becas para maestrías y doctorados. Right now, they don't have any scholarship open, and I don't know if they will open for this year, so it's still to be announced. CONACYT, Mexican agency that offers scholarships for doctorados. CONICYT also works with entidades federativas de México, so they will finance also maestrías, but only associated with the entidades federativas, so the Mexican states. So if you are interested in a beca for maestría, you should look at the CONACYT convocatoria with the entidades federativas, not the CONACYT becas al extranjero. The PhD scholarship from CONACYT is supposed to open, if I'm not mistaken, on April 16th. Obviously, when the scholarship opens, it will be extremely good if you already have the admission letter to be able to apply. Because if you are waiting for the scholarship to open and to get your admission letter, there may not be enough time because some of these scholarships are only open for 50 days, 30 days. So sometimes it's a really short period of time. And if you haven't done any previous contact with the university, that is not enough time to get to get an admission letter. For you to get an admission letter, you might be looking at 3-4 months at least of contact. I'm not saying that you apply and you need to wait 4 months. No, I'm saying that until you apply, there are several steps that we have talked before that you need to go through, and those things they can take several weeks or even months. Okay. FIDER is a credito agency in Mexico, which is suitable for when CONACYT is not financing specific programs. For example, if you're interested in business programs or if you're interested in a mestrado, maestría profesional, CONACYT will not finance, at least with CALDO University. So FIDER is your only option, and is your only. I mean, there might be others, but it's the only one that I know. It's a credit. It's not a scholarship. Pronabec, becas Don Carlos Antonio Lopez. This is from Peru. Um, not from Peru. This is Becal from Paraguay. Pronabec is the one after that. So Becal is from Paraguay, and they offer scholarships for doctorados y maestrías. But the main aspect here is the following: Becal is very very restrictive with rankings. So they usually allow candidates to apply only to the very top universities. So not all CALDO universities are eligible for this PECA. So I would advise anyone from Paraguay to contact the office first to get an idea of which are the universities that are suitable for specific programs. One area for almost all our universities except one, Saskatchewan, are eligible is education. So if you are thinking on doing a maestria or a doctorado in education, all of our universities, with the exception of Saskatchewan, are eligible. Becal, as the scholarship is open now. Pronavec is from Peru, and they will finance maestrías y doctorados. Once again, their scholarship is closed right now. We don't have any information if it will open in 2018 or not. Finally, ANI from Uruguay. ANI will finance doctorados and sandwich PhDs. Okay, um, and they are open until March the 15th, and afterwards they will close and they will probably reopen in December. So I hope that this gave you an overview of which agencies we work with and what are at least the main characteristics in a quick way. Now let's look at supervisors. Supervisors is also something that people have some questions how to get in touch with them. So like I mentioned, a supervisor is essential for a PhD program. It might also be very important to apply for master with research programs. The supervisors are professors that will work with students during their research period. And it's very important that you find and that you're looking for someone that it's aligned with what you want to do. So the example that I have here is that let's imagine that you're from the biology area, but inside biology you have very different specialities, and within those specialities you have um, specific research areas that vary and that professors are interested one more than others. So it's very important that you exactly identify which are the areas that you're interested, so that you can more easily find a professor. And one of our tasks at the office is to assist you with finding professors and assist you with providing you the information where you can get the profile of the professors for the university that you wish to apply. When you're contacting a supervisor, you should write what it's called a statement of research. Um, Statement of research have different names. This is basically a letter where you're introducing yourself and what you want to do. It can also be called a statement of interest, for example. Some of the things that you should keep an eye out for this letter. Always write formally. Um, Address the professor by dear Professor John. Um, Tell them exactly what you want to do. So what are your what are your research interests? You don't need to go into the detail of the research that you want to do. You can just write a sentence or two about the topic and the interest. But it's obviously important that they know why you're interested in working with them and how your research interests are aligned. Inform them if you are applying to your country for funding. That's always very important because if they know that you're applying to a scholarship from your own country, they might be more interested because you are bringing funding to pay for your studies. Um, Let them know why you chose them, so why you're interested in working with that professor. Um, and at the end, leave some room open for future discussion. So I don't know, a Skype call or a phone call or more information if they require to do so. Yeah, the overall idea is that you should look at this as a job interview. Okay, you're trying to get the attention of that particular person. So you need to be creative, but also very objective. The documents that you need to apply are usually the transcripts. So the transcripts are the certificado de notas, the histórico de notas. You don't need the diploma. Okay, the diploma is just for you to put on your wall and look at it. What the universities need are the, the document where it's mentioned the courses, so the classes that you took, and the grades. You also need a language test that we talked about, the statement of research that we talked about, the CV, so your CV, and reference contacts for you to write down the email of your references. So most of the references right now are not provided via a letter or via any scanned document. Basically, you provide the name and the email information from your references, and the university will send them a form for them to fill out. That's how it's mostly done. Some of you are also asking about living costs. Canada is one of the English-speaking countries that it's the most affordable to study. Like in some of your countries, the education in Canada is not free. So there's always something that you need to pay. Even the Canadian students need to pay for the education here. For you to have an idea, if you're living alone and you're living in one of our cities, so our cities are not the most expensive in Canada. The most expensive cities in Canada are Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. And we don't have any university there. So I would say that if you're living alone, you should need around $1,300 per month to pay for home, food, transportation. Obviously, you need to live a simple life. You cannot go out very often. You shouldn't probably spend a lot of money going to the movies or anything like that. So yeah, you need to keep in mind that this is a conservative budget. If you're a family of four or if you're bringing children with you, I would say that you should look at least $2,200 a month because obviously your expenses with food and with clothing and with transportation will be higher. And obviously with the house, you cannot share a room if you're bringing your family. So that's the major source of expenses is the accommodation. One excellent source for information is our website. So our website has different sections. The section that I would like to highlight is this one, is the tools to apply. In the tools to apply, you have different topics. And those topics are some of the most frequent things that people ask us. And they are available 24/7, so you can always go out and check it out. If you need to contact us directly, this is the email that you should write to, graduate.coordinator@cal.ca. I'm probably assuming that most of you that are listening to this webinar have already contacted us, so you are familiar with how we work and basically what we do. Right now, I will have some time for questions that you may have, so you can use the chat box to write any questions that you have and that we have not addressed in this presentation.